You are here. My name is Anindita and I am a functional medicine certified health coach and a practitioner. And I'll be talking about how you can take care of your body even when you're not getting the guidance and support that you need. So the healing journey is actually can be quite a lonely one. When you are facing daily health challenges and you're trying to make changes and you're trying to figure out what are the treatment options, what are the medications and what else needs to be done. It can be quite isolating if you're not getting the kind of support that you need in terms of whatever the dietary lifestyle changes that you're trying to make in your life, right? And sometimes our family doesn't know how to support us, or maybe it's that we don't know how to ask for support or a specific type of support that we need. So there can be many different reasons that we are not getting the kind of support that we need to, when we have embarked on our own healing journey. It can be that the traditional doctors that we are seeing actually don't have, which is quite common, that they don't have much idea about the role of nutrition in our lives, right? The role of other factors like stress, like toxins, so these are the things that are typically not really brought to our awareness when we are dealing with any kind of chronic illness. So these are some of the reasons why we may not be getting the kind of support to help us stay on track, to help us make better lifestyle choices, healthy choices. And if you are joining me live, make sure that you sort of drop in your questions below, right? If you have any questions as we go along. So I remember a client that I worked with briefly some time back. She was staying with her parents. She was unmarried, and the unfortunate part is, and she had multiple health issues, right? Multiple diagnoses. The unfortunate part was that she was not really getting much support from her parents, in any form or shape. So she had to figure out. I mean, I was helping her, of course. So I was, giving her the guidance that she needed to figure out what are the dietary choices that she needed to make, what are the changes that she needed to make, what are some of the things that she needed to remove from her life, what are the what are kind of products. But even with getting all that guidance, it was an uphill task for her, because in her house the environment was not really conducive for healing. So there are these clients, there are people, of course, we may have these kind of challenges. We just don't get the kind of support that we really need to make sure that we move towards health, that we not only, of course, get well, but also stay well, right? It's not about just getting better. So in this particular client, she had to really figure out how to make those changes, what are the foods that she needed to make for herself, etc. And it made it very challenging for her to stay on track, right? So we worked on that. But the good news is that even if you don't get the kind of support that you would really want, the ideal situation doesn't always come across, there are other things that you can do. And I'm going to share some ideas that helped her and that can help you as well, like some things to sort of help you get started. But even before I start talking about that, I want to touch upon a few other things which I think sort of lays the groundwork for that. So serious chronic conditions like autoimmune disease, like cancer, like diabetes, like any cardiovascular disease, any these are typically come sort of they're multifactorial in nature, and they often come overlapping with different kind of symptoms, and they typically come as a handful of diseases, right? And there's a reason for that, because everything in our body is interconnected. So if we start having issues in one area of the body, our organs in other parts of the body are not, they're all talking to each other, right? So everything is interconnected. And one of the most unfortunate things I find about getting diagnosed with any kind of chronic illness, right? So I work primarily with women with autoimmune conditions, but I also, as I said, it comes hand in hand with many other disease diagnoses. So I also end up working with women with diabetes, with insulin resistance, with heart disease, with cholesterol, high cholesterol issues, with hypertension, right? They all go hand in hand. And one of the most unfortunate things that I find is that we are not made aware of our body's own natural healing abilities, right? That's something that I learned, long story, but I find that none of us are really made aware of that, right? We rely on external inputs, external validation, blood tests, medications, treatments, and of course those are important interventions, but that's not enough when we're dealing with any chronic illness, and it's irrespective of your disease diagnosis. This is actually a huge mistake that I find, that it's what is sort of creating a lot of issues in terms of people getting, society as a whole getting sicker and sicker. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. I'm not going to get into that today. And the first thing that I want to sort of again highlight about as we go along this topic for today is our relationship with food. And I've chosen this topic because I think we have some level of awareness that food plays an important role, like diet is important, right? Whether we have an existing disease diagnosis or not, I think we by and large sort of understand intuitively that the foods that we put in our mouth is actually playing a much larger role than just providing us fuel for energy. We may not know exactly what it does, but there is so much more to it than just providing energy for us, right? Than just mere calories. That's where I wanted to start, right? And this area, this is a area which has to be of focus when you're trying to get well, and also when you're trying to prevent any kind of health issue, right? So once again, if you have any questions as we go along, make sure that you put it in the comments below. I'll try and answer them during this live. But food plays many different roles for us. I'm not going to go through all. It can be it's basically food plays a role of community. It brings the families together. Food plays a role of communication between ourselves. It gives important information to each and every cell in our body, and it has a role to play in our gene expression. But some of the other roles that food plays in our lives is security, which is abundance, which means that if we feel that it's not enough, then we may try to hoard food, and we may not be doing it consciously, right? Many of these are patterns that we developed over childhood, mimicking our parents, or just imbibing from our environment, right? So food can be a source of many different anxiety. In fact, different kinds of anxieties can develop over a period of time. Challenges can develop. So if I see food as a challenge, I may not really like cooking as much. So there are many different roles, and not all these roles are really positive roles, of course. And we may be doing this, these roles may play an important part in our lives without us being ever conscious of it, right? So what I'm trying to do here is just to bring it to your notice, so that you Lavina, thank you for sharing that. Abusive, I know it's harming me, but I'm sticking to it. So this is the reason I choose. Thank you for sharing. That's very brave of you. And this is the reason I chose to talk about this topic and often. And I chose to talk about this today before I even got into how you can take care of your body, because as you rightly pointed out, you can see food as different things. So somebody else might see food as a challenge. Somebody else can see, or I might have a history of craving certain foods at one end, or maybe restricting myself to on the other hand. Both extremes are not really very conducive for a healthy body. And because primarily I see food as an adversary, maybe that's something that you're talking about, or maybe I have a lot of anxiety around food. So I'm not going to be breaking that down today. That's not the topic for today, but that's something that I wanted to touch upon even before I get into what kind of the three things that you can do to take care of your body, even if you're not getting the right kind of support. And exploring our relationship with food is where, which can really help figure out what kind of support that we need to ask for, right? If we are not very clear on the kind of support that we need, we can't really ask for it, can we? So this is the reason I chose to talk about this particular aspect of health right at the beginning of today's session, right? So that's something for you to think about. Drop in any comments that, any thoughts that come. It would be great to hear from you. The other important area that I find that is often overlooked in terms of, an important aspect that leads us towards disease progression is our mental state, right? We know about it. Again, it's something that we know about. We know about the role of stress, and all stress is of course not bad, But again, I'm talking about the chronic kind of stress, the stress that sort of goes on unabated, where we are not really taking steps to become aware of the state of our mind, the state of our mental and emotional health. That's the kind of stress I'm talking about. Because again, one thing I want to make very clear is that all stress is not bad, right? We have stress hormones because they help us. They are called survival hormones. They are called for a reason. They help us survive. It's just that the kind of environment that we live in, the kind of world that we live in, it's made it very it's like a maladaptive kind of a situation, right? So our body is constantly producing stress hormones, and much to our detriment, because it creates a lot of downstream diseases. Actually, eventually it starts with symptoms, of course. So like all other environmental inputs that come in from outside, whether it's the lifestyle choices that we make, whether it's the dietary choices and everything else, our beliefs and relationships can either be healing and supporting for us, support our bodies to heal, or it can be toxic, right? So it depends on what is coming in for you and what you're choosing to let in, right? That's a choice that you're making every single day, and your body is producing stress hormones like cortisol in response to the message that you're giving your body. So it's actually what kind of environment. So the question you need to ask yourself is, what kind of environment are you asking your body to live in? That's the question that you need to be asking yourself, right? Are you asking your body to live in an environment that is conducive for healing, or one that is very stressful? And I'm talking about physical environment. I'm talking about your even the emotional environment that you live in, right? It's both. It's a combination. So because what happens is that one is the physical environment, of course. Right now I'm talking about more of about our thoughts, our actions, our behaviors, because our thoughts can either tell our bodies to thrive or to survive. We have two nervous system modes. We cannot do both at the same time, right? As I tell my clients, we have two nervous system modes. One is the fight or flight, one is the rest or digest. You cannot be on both modes at the same time. This means that if you are by default, which is actually where most of us live, we are by default in the fight or flight response mode. We are never in the rest or not in the rest and digest mode, right? Majority of the time, which is where majority of the time that we live in. But if we are in the rest and digest mode, where we actually can digest our food, when we can repair our wounds, where our immune system can sort of come back into balance, the actual healing takes place. The sleep is where the sleep is proper. So there's so many things that get into that. Then we are not in the fight or flight mode. So that there's a big difference. So a lack of purpose, a lack of a low self-worth, anger, isolation, lack of proper relationships, connections with others, right? All of these and the negative thoughts that accompany these, they can take a toll on our bodies eventually, right? Whether we realize it or not. So often when I ask, in my questionnaires, etc., that a level of 0 to 10, how stressed are you? Many people are not even aware of actually their internal state of emotions, right? Because we are not really taught to look at all these things. So are your thoughts priming your body to thrive and enjoy a pain-free, comfortable and pleasurable experience? Or is it priming your body and your nervous system to suppress vitality so that your body can heal? You can't have both at the same time, right? So what happens is that we are merely surviving, we are merely existing, right? And exist. So, so what I like to also tell my clients is that health is not the absence of disease. And I want to sort of reiterate that again. Health is not the absence of disease. So if you take only one thing from this session, this is what I would like you to pick up. So ultimately, it's about your daily choices. Your daily choices do matter. Your daily choices tell your body about the status of your world, right? That is the power that resides within you, right? What choices that you make, what are the littlest of decisions that you're taking on a daily basis, right? That's where you can start. So whether you have a lot of support from your immediate environment, your family, your loved ones, a lot of guidance or not, you can start making these teeny changes to the decisions that you're taking on a daily basis, and that can actually have a compounding effect over a period of time. That's how compounding works. And so let me just give you examples of what those little decisions can be. It can be choosing to go to bed an hour before you usually do. So if you're going to bed around around 11:30, 12, choosing to go to bed at around 10:30. You may not see a difference immediately, but you will, eventually your body will thank you for it. For example, whether or not you start the day on a positive note, how you start your day has a huge role to play on the rest of your day. There's enough research on it, enough books on it. So if you do some kind of meditative practice or some journaling, have some morning routine, even if you don't have much time, even if you can just carve out 5 minutes, 10 minutes, that's better than not doing anything at all. So that's something. Maybe you've chosen not to have the second slice of the cake, right? You wanted to have, you were enjoying a meal with your friends, you were socializing, but you passed on that second slice because you've already had a certain amount of dessert, and it's not going to really help you, right? So these small decisions, these small things matter a lot. Choosing to go off screen, right? This is one of the things that we work on. Sleep is one of the key areas of focus. Of course, food is one, but something like sleep is really overlooked. So I teach my clients how to sort of put in place and bedtime ritual, and how we do it for the children, right? So bedtime ritual and evening ritual, and one of the things that I ask them to do is go off screen an hour before bedtime, right? And read a physical book and find some other small activity. So as you can see, there are many such decisions that you can take on a daily basis which can have a huge impact in the long run, right? And it's completely within your control. So even if other things are not, even if you are not getting proper guidance, even if you are not getting the sign of support that you would need, and I've seen that these are the small things that you can do to take care of your body. In fact, the 3 pillars of my own coaching program, which is simplify, reconnect and sustain, they take into account all of this and covers it in detail so that my clients can feel empowered and take charge of their own health, because this is what it's going to allow you to do. Take charge of your own health, right? Of course, I'm going to share with you 3 key areas that you can focus on and 3 things that you can do so that you can actually get the support. But you can start by doing these small things, and that can have a huge impact and lay a strong foundation, and taking into account whatever circumstances that you might be dealing with right now, right? So there are so many things. When I talk to my clients, when I ask them to make some dietary changes, they may be living in a joint family or extended family, and it's quite hard to make different kinds of meals for different people. I understand. So we find a way to work around that. Maybe, so for example, I had a client and she was finding it difficult to incorporate those dietary changes for the entire family. That's not always possible. It's usually not possible actually. So in her case, because we had talked about eating colors of the rainbow, and I wanted to incorporate a lot of different vegetables primarily. So one solution we came up with was to add soups, right? One very simple thing to make, and soups is easy because you can make different kinds of soup each day. So you can have a carrot, also orange soup which is made of carrots. You can have a pumpkin soup which is yellow. You can have mushroom soup which is white, spinach, green, broccoli. So you can have different colors of the rainbow just by making soups, and soup can be made for one person as well. So that's how she decided to take care of herself, right? Even within the limitations that she had, because she was not getting the kind of support that she needed at that time. And as you will find that as you go along, there will be other ways that you can sort of other solutions that you can find actually, right? So that's really helpful. And if there's anything that is coming up for you, anything that you have found helpful so far, make sure that you give me a thumbs up. And if you're watching this on replay, if you have any questions, do drop in below. I can share some more ideas with you. So 3 key areas that you need to prioritize today, right? So in my experience of dealing with women with all kinds of chronic illnesses, I have found that there are certain areas that they need to prioritize right from the beginning. And this becomes even more important if you're dealing with certain limitations. Limitations in terms of encouragement, limitations in terms of motivation, support, guidance, etc. Right? So, and I've shared with you right at the beginning of this session about the relationship with food and your diet, right? So that's an area that you need to prioritize. You need to figuring out what is your relationship with food, right? So what's happening there, because that will actually help it easier to support dietary changes later on. So knowing what kind of relation, if you have a healthy relationship with food, you'll be able to actually switch to different alternatives much easier than if you have a unhealthy relationship with food, right? So if for example, if you're looking for food to fulfill many different roles, including that of entertainment, including that of comfort, pleasure, and you're not getting it from other areas of your life, then it's really hard to give up those comfort foods, right? That's the reason we struggle so much. However, if there are, you have different hobbies, you have a lot of friends, social circle, deep meaningful relationships even outside of your family, other pleasurable activities that you having fun, ways that you have fun, regularly on a regular, I'm talking about on a regular basis, then food need not fulfill all those roles, and it's much easier to make those changes. I hope that's making sense for you, right? So your diet and relationship with your food is what you need to prioritize, understand and prioritize. Second is find an alternative form of support, right? So again, whether it's a form of an online community, especially if you're dealing with any kind of chronic illness, and there's so many online communities which are available, whether through social media platforms or otherwise, that you can find out for that particular medical condition or a diagnosis, and there's so many different support groups that are available. So that's something that you can join. Or you can get a health coach to work with you, because that's what health coaches do. They provide the kind of accountability, the support and the guidance that people need when they are dealing with any kind of chronic health conditions, so that they can actually make changes, they can sustain their changes, they can change their behavior, their habits, their thought patterns, right? So they are kind of like this buddy that you have, the accountability partner. The accountability plays a major role in whether you are able to sustain the changes that you make, sustain the your state of well-being, right? So finding an online community or getting a health coach in your corner is can change your life. And the third thing that you need to prioritize is active rest and relaxation. Again, another area that is often quite missing from our life, especially for women, right? We don't really prioritize rest and relaxation. I mean, it's true for most of us. I think we lead such hectic lives. We have a whole slew of responsibilities. So focusing on making sure that you're getting proper sleep at night, you have adequate downtime, you're prioritizing sleep. Actually, it's not going to happen on its own. You're prioritizing sleep, you're taking rest, you're taking maybe a Sunday nap. I always do that on Saturday, and especially on Sundays, I will typically take an afternoon nap no matter what. So these are the things that you can sort of prioritize. So the three things that I shared with you that you can look at focusing on right from today is your diet and relationship with food. You can look for support from an online community or a health coach, right? And you can do both, of course. I mean, that's immense support that you will get from both in different forms. And third is focusing on active rest and relaxation, right? So these are some of the things that will help you to take care of your body, to take care of your health, to nourish your mind and your body, even if you're not getting all kind of support, the ideal support guidance that you want. But you can start today. You don't have to wait. And I have freed up about 10 slots for a free 30 minutes discovery call for you to explore this a bit further, for you to have a chat with me. So you can head to anindita.com/call. That's anindita.com/call, and we can have a chat about this to see how we can, what are the next steps for you.